Yo, welcome back to another video. Let's get right into it. Probably last video. Probably not do some gaming streams, but I don't really talk during those. Anyways, right into it.
One hit wonder is a group or singer that has only one hit record, typically after one of their earliest songs. Now let's get into it. I saw this movie. CJ is a rapper who many know for his song Whoopty, and literally nothing else. People literally refer to him as CJ, parentheses Whoopty, because they don't know any other songs from him. So CJ began his rap career as a kid and started posting music to YouTube and SoundCloud when he was just 14 years old. He released a handful of songs over the years and saw a little buzz after he likely paid for a 6ix9ine feature for the song Pop in 2018.
So that's what I'm saying. That's my story. People think that the Whoopty song was my first song that I ever made and I just blew up. Nah, y'all gotta do your research. I gotta do your homework. I've been doing this for years, 10 years plus. I just happened to create Whoopty, and it happened to be the song that blew up.
But other than that little bit of information, he was relatively unknown and hardly had much music out. Until, of course, he released his drill song Whoopty in July of 2020. This song was a smash hit, blowing up on YouTube and TikTok. It featured a catchy hook and a sample that had already been used by drill legend Pop Smoke, King Von, FBG Duck, and more. The YouTube video has over 450 million views, and the song itself went 2 times platinum. Shortly after the virality of this song, he signed a deal with Warner Records. He followed up Whoopty with the song Bop, which did alright, and then released his album Loyalty Over Royalty, which did not perform well at all when compared to his previous hit. With single after single, CJ was struggling to replicate the success he saw with Whoopty until he eventually parted ways with Warner Records.
We had our differences with the label, and we decided to part ways. I'm gonna leave it at that.
But I do want to clarify, a lot of people who aren't doing so hot like to rephrase being dropped by their label as parting ways or having disagreements. It's very possible that CJ was dropped. Hello Yassine even claimed that he was dropped, but I'm not sure how accurate that is. Regardless, things started going downhill for CJ for a couple of reasons. One of the main reasons that he couldn't replicate his success was because he just jumped on a trend. A Reddit user explained fairly well why Whoopty blew up like it did and why he couldn't create a hit like it again. They said, Whoopty came out 2020, months after Pop Smoke died. Keeping it a grand, after Pop Smoke died, people were desperate for another drill star. That's why that shit plus Dusty Locane's shit got millions of views quick, and that was their first songs. After Pop Smoke died, one of the most popular drill artists, there was a huge longing for more hard-hitting, aggressive drill songs, and people began trying to fill that void. Whoopty was literally made off a Pop Smoke type beat, so it's pretty obvious what market CJ was trying to dip his toes into. It was actually his first.
Central C is probably the successful drill rapper. That man got some music on him. Let's see who's next.
Know about rolling down in the deep.
Masked Wolf is an artist whose name you probably don't even recognize, but I promise you've heard his viral TikTok song Astronaut in the Ocean, so I think that sums this up pretty well. Masked Wolf is an Australian artist who has actually been putting out music for a long time. He started playing instruments as a kid and writing songs when he was 13. However, it wasn't until 2018, when he was 27 years old, that he signed to Teamwork Records and released his first official single, Speed Racer. He quickly followed that up with the song Astronaut in the Ocean in 2019, but it didn't blow up back then. It took a handful more singles for Masked Wolf to get signed to the US-based record label Elektra Records in 2021. After signing to Elektra, he re-released Astronaut in the Ocean, and it went super viral. It hit number 6 on the Billboard Hot 100 and eventually went 2 times platinum. TikTok was a huge aid in this song's virality, along with pretty much every other social media platform.
You may have heard these lyrics repeated again and again and again and again and again and again and again in various places across the internet. It is a track that seemingly you can't really escape from right now.
However, one of the main reasons the song was so viral was because, in part, this song was a pretty big meme. A lot of people did like it, don't get me wrong, but there was definitely some meminess to it in the general music community. I mean, one of the top comments on the song's music video is, I heard this song in my dreams for about 10 minutes straight, but then I remembered I had YouTube Shorts playing in the background and forgot to turn off my phone. I think that emphasizes where this song gets its infamy. Hivemind even had it in their worst songs of all time bracket, so that's gotta say something.
Song where he says, like, I rock with G-O-D, don't rock with T-H-O-T.
No.
Yeah, he said he loves God and he...
Yeah, this is looking good. Let's keep building the music and... No, this is supposed to be the happiest day of her life. I'm gonna need more emotion. You're happy.
Gold all in my ring.
Trinidad James is a rapper that's best known for his song All Gold Everything from 2012, but by 2018 he had admitted on the No Jumper podcast that he had fallen off. Things happened pretty quick for Trinidad James. He began looking at beats and writing lyrics after high school, and in 2011 he started rapping. He got invited to a studio session, but didn't like the quality of the studio he was in, so he invested in a premium studio session in which he recorded his song All Gold Everything. He released it as his debut single in 2012, and it went viral. He also released his debut album Don't Be Safe, but that paled in comparison to the success of All Gold Everything. The single peaked at 36 on the Billboard Hot 100, and like many of the other songs on this list, it went platinum. And when an artist has a hit song like this, the labels come calling. He quickly signed to Def Jam for a $2 million deal. In early 2013, the song got a remix with T.I., Young Jeezy, and 2 Chainz. Also, fun fact that you probably already know or maybe didn't notice, but Bruno Mars interpolated All Gold Everything on his song Uptown Funk. Trinidad's career was going very well. He started collaborating with other artists like Logic, Gucci Mane, Wale, and most notably A$AP Ferg on the Work remix alongside French Montana, A$AP Rocky, and Schoolboy Q. And I guess I broke my rule here a little bit because this song also went platinum, and he did have another one go gold. Also in 2013, Trinidad James made the XXL freshman class, which was a pretty big deal at the time, although his cypher was a bit underwhelming. In 2014, he released his second project 10-Piece Mild, with features from artists like Sci-Hi, Travis Scott, Danny Brown, Rich Homie Quan, Gucci Mane, Childish Gambino, and more. Despite the massive feature lineup, this album didn't perform super well and received mixed reviews. And afterwards, Trinidad didn't release music for a while. Around this time, he was dropped by his label, which he announced in a tweet by saying, "I should tell y'all, I got dropped from my label. My album is now free. If you hear your beat or verse on it, I hope you want dap cause I got no money." Which I gotta say I respect because like we've seen other people possibly do on this list, a lot of people tend to lie when they're dropped by their label. He was also in some hot water for some comments he made about New York and had a little bit of a beef with Charlemagne, but that didn't seem to be the main reason his career began to decline. Some people thought it was, but he didn't fully agree with that take either.
Right. So when I went back and looked at that New York situation, I look at that as like, oh damn, y'all got to just see an angry black man talking this shit. And you get to learn that if you allow social media to tell your narrative, like I talked about just to say that earlier a second ago, or whatever, then you
But what's cool about Trinidad James' story is how he was able to turn that negative into a positive. He didn't stop releasing music, created his own label, Gold Gang Records, and also had a handful of industry connections that he was able to utilize. He continued releasing music with people like Offset, Lil Dicky, Young Thug, and many more. His music never got nearly as close to the success of All Gold Everything, but he was able to use his skills to make other big moves in the industry. For example, he did some writing on Bad Baby's High Bit, which was a huge song, and he also featured in Childish Gambino's screenplay, Clapping for the Wrong Reasons. He also guest starred on an episode of Full Size Run, a sneaker podcast on Complex, and he eventually began working with them regularly.
It just kind of popped up, bro. Like I did this show as a guest, and then my accountant was like, "Hey, bro, maybe you should go up there and do the show." And I was like, I don't need that money or whatever, you know what I'm saying? I was thinking about the money. I wasn't thinking like how I need to think, which is like business.
It seemed to work out well since Trinidad was a pretty big fashion guy. He's also just been posting a ton of content on YouTube outside of music videos, so it really does seem like he's still having fun and keeping himself busy. And his latest music is actually pretty good. He's been tapped in with the music industry and really just seems like a cool guy having fun with his music. Silento is probably the best example of a one-hit wonder, because after creating the viral hit song and dance with Watch Me, he fell off the map, and later ended up in jail for murder. So
making the switch to Shopify means designing an online store that expresses your brand your way. Choose from tons of free,
Silento began his career in 8th grade, working with small producers making music and posting it online. Eventually, when he was a junior in high school, he found a guy named Bolo the Producer and made a song that he knew would be a hit. He started getting in contact with promotion companies and eventually signed with Capitol Records as they believed in the hit potential of this song. Capitol Records wanted to try a new campaign leveraging the popularity of songs that encouraged the listeners to do a unique dance, which was really popular at the time. Then they released the song Watch Me with Nene. After being released on January 6th of 2015, as I'm sure you all know, this song and dance became the biggest thing in the world. Watch Me went 6 times platinum and has about 2 billion views on YouTube. And if you weren't there at the time, everyone was doing this dance. Even old white dudes on the news were doing it.
Watch me whip, whip, watch me nene. All right. Watch me. See? Feels very awkward, doesn't it?
The song remained in the top 10 of the Billboard Hot 100 for over 6 weeks, and for a brief period of time, Silento was on top of the world. But unfortunately, it is extremely hard to live up to what Silento did. Watch Me wasn't popular because he was necessarily a good artist or because it was a good song, but because it was a fun song accompanied with a fun dance, which is nearly impossible to replicate. So Silento's career began to decline. In 2018, he followed up with his debut album Fresh Outta High School, in which most songs didn't even crack 100,000 plays on Spotify. Understandably, Silento had been dealing with some mental health issues during this time. He grew up in Stone Mountain, Georgia, a small town with a big drug problem. He even claimed that he was born with a bunch of drugs in his system.
I was born with weed, coke, heroin, pills, all type of drugs in my system. I saw family members talking to walls. I watched family members fight. I watched family members try to kill each other. Nobody should have to watch that.
Combine all that trauma with knowing that you can never live up to the viral hit song you made, knowing that your 15 minutes of fame are over, and it makes sense why he began to spiral downward. He was actually dropped by Capitol Records before his debut album even released, once they had finished milking as much money as they could from Watch Me with merch, tours, concerts, and everything in between.
At the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? I was 17, but I'm 20 now, and you know, the deal I had, I got it terminated. I got a release. I got away from that situation. I'm working on me a new situation right now. And yeah.
Well, he may have acted like everything was cool on the outside. On the inside, it wasn't. He talked about his mental health issues in 2019 on the advice of his publicist, Chanel Hudson. She said that she noticed a decline in his mental health when he started missing important TV appearances and attributed it to how often he was traveling around the world and performing. Apparently, he even tried taking his own life after the pandemic hit, which was followed by an even further spiral downward. He was put in jail twice in California for domestic violence and gun charges and was later arrested for speeding, going over 140 miles per hour. Then Silento hit the lowest of lows when he caught a murder charge. In 2021, Silento was indicted for malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, and the possession of a firearm while committing a felony. He was accused of killing his cousin Frederick Rooks. There is very little info on this case, and I don't think he's been sentenced yet, but in 2021 he did release an album called Bars Behind Bars, in which most songs didn't even crack 10,000 plays on Spotify. Other than a leaked jail photo, there is no information surrounding Silento's whereabouts lately, but I think it's safe to assume he's awaiting trial. Please let me know in the comments if I'm wrong about this and there's more information. I just threw these guys on the list because I thought it was funny, but I'm sure some of you have wondered at one point or another what happened to the guys who made the What Does the Fox Say song, so let's check it out. Also, I'm probably not going to pronounce any of their names correctly, so forgive me in advance. Ylvis is a duo composed of two Norwegian brothers, Vegard and Bard Urheim. They were always very into music, playing multiple instruments and even being in their school's choir. Under the name Ylvis, they started doing variety shows, radio shows, and a bunch of other things after high school, displaying their range of talent. After doing a few variety shows, in 2010 they did another that sold out, and they also launched a comedy talk show. After their talk show was renewed for a second season, they created a production company and continued working on their comedy talk show. And that's how their famous song The Fox came to be. Songs like The Fox and Stonehenge were made for the show or to promote the show as parody and or comedy songs along with the music videos. But they were also uploaded to YouTube and streaming services, where they would eventually go viral. The Fox, or What Does the Fox Say in particular, was extremely successful, as I'm sure you have all heard it, and it has over 1 billion views on YouTube. It also peaked at number 6 on the US Billboard Hot 100 for 3 weeks, so you may be surprised to find out that the song hasn't even gone platinum, so I'm kind of breaking my rule here as it only went gold. However, I believe this song goes beyond plaques, as I think it was a generational joke song that everyone loved. They got invited onto the Ellen DeGeneres Show, Jimmy Fallon, The Today Show, and much more. They even won a few awards for their music. But as I'm sure you may have noticed, music wasn't their sole focus, as these were two comedy songs from their talk show, so clearly they had it made in other avenues. They continued releasing music and even put out an album that was a collection of all of their popular songs from YouTube, but none of their songs got nearly as much traction as The Fox did. On the bright side, it didn't seem like Ylvis really wanted to be huge superstar musicians in the first place, as they had many other things they were doing, and it seems like they're still pretty popular across the pond. For example, in 2018 they released a documentary series called Stories from Norway, where they took big headline stories from Norway and turn them into musical documentaries. And much more recently, they started creating content for VGTV, which is Norway's largest streaming service. So it seems like the boys from Ylvis are doing great. Anyways, I just wanted to include them in this video because I thought it was funny and I was kind of curious what they were up to. And
Alright, that's about good. We're gonna get